Welcome back, everyone. Today's explainer is diving into something pretty profound, the first paper in Gerald M. Welch's Unified Space-Time series. We're going to take a really close look at a massive conceptual shift, centering around one deceptively simple question: what is a dimension? We're going to explore how redefining dimensions, taking them from just abstract geometry to actual constructs of physical existence, completely changes how we understand reality.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll start with beyond abstract geometry, define the meaning of realization, distinguish quanta from quantra, look at the hierarchy of organization, explain why time is never added later, and then finish up with a preview of the Unified Dimensions series.
Section 1. Beyond abstract geometry.
So, modern physics very successfully uses Minkowski spacetime as its standard geometric framework. But we have to ask, what actually occupies that framework? What is a dimension? Every physical theory assumes that something exists to begin with, right? Well, Unified Dimensions takes a step back to ask what it actually means for something to become physically realized at all. What is the absolute smallest unit of realized existence?
Now, most people think of dimensions in pure geometric terms, you know? D1 is a point, D2 is a line, D3 is a plane, and D4 is a volume. But Welch's paper argues that this description is totally incomplete. Instead, Unified Dimensions defines a dimension as a realized organization of spacetime. It's a huge shift. We're moving away from just empty mathematical shapes and talking about actual, physical existence.
Section 2. The meaning of realization. Realization is literally the transition from unrealized possibility into physically immiscible existence. And here's an absolutely crucial point. Unified Dimensions does not guess or speculate about what exists before this transition. That's entirely outside its scope. It purely focuses on what constitutes physical existence once realization actually happens. That transition into physical admissibility, that is everything.
Section 3. Distinguishing quanta from quantra. Now, there is a very hard line drawn here between a quantum and a quantra. A quantum measures the smallest discrete manifestation of a physical quantity, like energy or a field. A quantra, however, answers a totally different question. What is the smallest realized spacetime event? One is measuring quantities, while the other defines the absolute baseline of physical existence itself.
Let's really cement that definition, because it's important. A quantra is a realized space-time event that serves as the fundamental ontological building block of existence. Just to be absolutely clear, we are not throwing out physical quanta. Not at all. We're simply introducing the quantra as the starting point from which all realized physical existence is constructed. It's the foundational event.
Section 4. The hierarchy of realized organization.
Okay, I want you to stop visualizing increasingly complex geometric shapes for a second, and instead start thinking about progressively richer levels of realized organization. We start at D0, unrealized possibility. Now, D0 is not a physical state at all, it's simply the baseline question of whether realization exists. It represents the complete absence of physical realization.
But then, we cross the threshold into D1, one realized quantra. This is the smallest physically meaningful unit in this entire framework. It asks exactly what has been realized. And notice this key detail. Spatial localization and temporal admissibility exist together right at the starting line. They are a package deal.
Moving up to D2, we can see how this builds. D2 asks how realized quantra organize linearly. They aren't just magically drawing a geometric line in space, they are becoming related to one another through linear organization. It's all about the relationships forming between these fundamental realized events.
Next up is D3, realized planar organization. Now, these relationships extend across two independent directions. Again, keep your focus on the relationship structure itself. We aren't just drawing a flat surface. We're describing how actual quantra are organizing themselves in a planar way to create physical reality.
Finally, we reach D4, realized volumetric organization. This asks how quantra organize volumetrically, where their relationships extend throughout a three-dimensional volume. This whole progression proves a massive point. Geometry merely describes the resulting organization. Realization is what actually dictates what physically exists to be described in the first place.
Section 5. Time is never added later.
This might be the most important concept in the entire paper. Time is not attached after realization.
Time is a part of realization itself. In our everyday language, we usually imagine an object sitting in space and then moving through time as this secondary action. But in Welch's framework, the quantra is already a space-time entity from the exact split second of realization.
And this brings us to intrinsic temporal admissibility. Because time is literally baked right into every single quantra at D1, all the higher dimensions, the linear, planar, and volumetric organizations, they don't have to go out and independently acquire time later on. They perfectly inherit temporal admissibility because they're built entirely out of those realized quantra. Time is fundamental, guys. It is never appended after the fact.
Section 6, the Unified Dimension Series. So here is the logical progression for the rest of the series. We just covered paper I, answering, what is a realized dimension? And that sets the stage perfectly for paper 2, which asks, compared to what universal calibration condition should these realized dimensions actually be measured? After that, paper 3 explores how realized spacetime itself should be described, and paper 4 finally tackles what physical behavior emerges from that realized spacetime. It literally builds block by block.
I'll leave you with this final thought. If unified dimensions doesn't propose any wild new dimensions, how does redefining their reality change our understanding of physical existence? By shifting the ontological starting point of what actually occupies spacetime, we reframe the very baseline of reality itself. It's a lot to think about, right? The journey into realized spacetime continues in paper 2. Thanks for hanging out and learning with me on this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.